Hello and welcome to Life in the Mind. I'm Murray Spear.
And I'm Joy Amy Wigman.
And we are a neurodivergent podcast for neurodivergent people and by neurodivergent people as well.
Yeah.
Woo, woo, woo. And today is Life in the Mind of B. Barker. Hello, B.
Hello.
So nice to have you in the studio. B joined us for a panel that we did at the Cheltenham Literature Festival last year, which was a really exciting one to do.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't remember much. I feel like my brain was on autopilot kind of thing. So there was so much going on in that room as well at the time.
Yeah.
My brain's just like, oh yeah, that happened. Don't ask me any details. Don't know him. I spoke sometimes.
That's
Well,
a really good point.
They didn't. It wasn't even a room. It was sort of like a thoroughfare.
Yeah.
In the food court, which was great for a bunch of neurodivergent people. But actually, that meant that because people were walking through, a lot of people stopped and listened to us.
Yeah, it was really nice that we were able to have that kind of catching the passing trade, and even some people just stopping for a bit and going, oh, actually, this is quite interesting, and just, picking up random bits of education.
Yeah.
So, education on the flow.
And that's what we do.
Yeah. Just walking down the street. Have you heard about ADHD? It's like, no, but I'm guessing you are it.
Handing out the flowers, the flyers. Have you met our Lord and Saviour? ADHD.
I mean, you're joking, but I do feel like every conversation I have with someone, just because as a neurodivergent person, you've attracted other neurodivergent people. It does end up being some kind of educational conversation about ADHD, autism, whatever. It's like, oh, have you heard of this?
Oh, no, I haven't. That small facet of this. Ah, wait, what's executive dysfunction? Oh my gosh, that's relatable.
It does end up becoming like you open someone's whole world.
Yes.
They suddenly have an epiphany. You have to sit them down.
Yeah, and then it's the balance between how much you've given them existential crisis and how much you've really helped them. It's like, is it good? Is it bad? Should I have said that? Should I not? It's like, oh, so yeah, you're autistic. And they're like, am I?
Yeah.
You're like, you didn't know that.
Also, am I allowed to tell you that? I'm not allowed to tell you
Probably
that.
not allowed to.
Anyway, we should probably let people know who B is and a little bit more about them. So B, what's your relationship with neurodivergence?
So personally, I am autistic and I have ADHD. I'm also dyslexic and dyspraxic. So fun mix.
Cool.
It's the full house.
Yeah.
It's a fun collection.
It's interesting. I don't have a formal diagnosis or anything, but numbers evade me on many, maths was a real struggle. I got good marks in maths because I really, I used to listen to times table tapes while going to sleep to be like, come on, I'll remember this. And luckily as an adult, it's kind of like how they say picky eaters don't exist as an adult because you get to choose what you eat. With me, it's like my problems with numbers don't really exist because I don't have to deal with numbers much now.
Just don't do it.
Avoid them.
Yeah, it's like I can just copy them into a calculator. I don't have to, do mental maths or anything like that. So
Yeah, you just decided not to be an architect, so you're fine.
Yeah. They're like, oh, you won't always have a calculator in your pocket. And it's like, well,
I will.
one, I will. And two, I'll just avoid numbers anyway. I just wouldn't put myself in a situation where I'd need a calculator. And I obviously do some work with other neurodivergent people too. So
Lovely, which we will talk about later.
Yeah, because you work alongside us at the charity that we are
Partnered with.
That's the word.
Inclusion Gloucestershire.
Yeah, Inclusion
yes,
Gloucestershire.
the lovely Inclusion Gloucestershire. So I do a few things. It's kind of dropped off a bit because of my other work, but the Oliver McGowan Tier 2 co-trainer. And I do the youth post-diagnostic support group. And I also run youth advocacy sessions for neurodiverse young people. So
Lovely.
Good selection of stuff.
Yeah.
Makes me feel like I'm not doing enough.
I
think you're doing enough.
It's just the ADHD. People are like, oh, do you want to do that? And I'm like, yeah, all right.
Do I have the capacity to?
We'll figure that out later.
Question.
That's a future problem. We won't think about that right now.
Yeah. In this moment, it's a yes.
How old were you when you when you discovered your neurodivergence?
So I was diagnosed at a very young age with a bunch of mental health problems. But I definitely had problems at school for the sense that the SEN teacher came to our house and did loads of tests and things with me. No one else had that. None of my friends remember doing that. That wasn't a thing. So I think there was some things picked up on, but maybe they weren't really, picked up on as well as they could have been. But I was diagnosed general anxiety disorder, then all know maybe it's social anxiety disorder, then ARFID, then all different things.
The bunch of things that people diagnose women with when they've got
then,
a neurodivergence.
Yeah, they spoke about maybe bipolar and then BPD. And it was like, could it maybe be one thing instead of this, 60 things you're listing? Maybe it's just a few things. And then when I was 18, I met my partner, and she doesn't remember saying this, and she always feels bad because she's like, oh, I hope it wasn't in a mean way. And I'm like, no, it was genuinely, you were saying it in a nice way. We were watching something that had a character who at the time was called Asperger's, and my partner turned to me and went, do you have Asperger's? And I was like, I don't think so. And then I was like, wait. And then obviously started researching into autism. So by the time I was 21, I had a very firm understanding that I'm autistic. But I wasn't diagnosed till 27. So, which is late diagnosed, but not. I find when I meet people who are late diagnosed, there's people late diagnosed in their 50s. So I feel like being diagnosed in my 20s, I can't really say.
I think that still counts, because I think there's a difference between getting a diagnosis when you're in the education system and what will happen to having to go through like puberty and cope with that, not knowing. And then as an adult. So I think that for me, that definitely counts as late diagnosed.
Yeah, in my mind, it is, it's that educational split, especially if it's primary school versus any other time.
Yeah.
And post-puberty versus pre-puberty is a very good point. But so you're I'd call it late diagnosis. Because I called myself and I was earlier than that.
Yeah, it was 27 and I didn't know about the ADHD. That was kind of thrown in at the end of my autism diagnosis. It was like, you're autistic, ADHD. And I was like, oh.
Was it the classic kind of, I maybe think about this?
Yeah, well, so it was I know they're changing the way they do it now, or trying to change. I don't know the full thing. So that if someone in Gloucestershire goes for an autism or an ADHD assessment, they're kind of screened for both.
That's good.
Because, so I don't have an official diagnosis of ADHD, but the people who diagnosed me with autism kind of said, we think you have ADHD. You need to go back to your doctor for another referral. And I went, oh, who will I go to for that? Well, you'll come to us. And I was like, so it'll be you diagnosing me, but you can't officially diagnose me, even though you've basically said I have ADHD.
Just wait another 4 years and we'll talk to you.
And then the doctor kept sending, again, typical ADHD, the doctor kept sending me the surveys I had to fill out. And I was just like, I'm not going to do that. I've got other things on my mind. And I'd always go, I'll do that tomorrow. And just never did. And then by the time I'd remembered, the NHS right to choose thing had kind of been scrapped for the place that I'd been referred for and stuff. So I was just like, I don't want to go on meds for my ADHD. I work in a very inclusive environment. I don't need that formal diagnosis. So I didn't bother getting it. And again, the dyslexia from a very young age, I don't really remember how that came about. I just knew I was kind of a weird combination of being hyperlexic and that I learned to read very young, but also my reading wasn't great. I like add in words and skip words. And when I read, don't ever ask me to read out loud because it will not be what's on paper. It will not. It's, very all over the place. I tend to listen to audiobooks as opposed to read because otherwise, the story I'm reading and the story you're reading are going to be two completely different things.
That's great. You get your own individual, unique story every time you read a book.
I used to read out loud for my partner, and she'd be looking at the page at the same time. We'd be like, let in bed, our cute little story time. And she'd always I'd see her looking at me like, it doesn't say that. Like, what are you saying? And I think because I was struggling so much with reading, my brain just goes, well, I guess that's what it says, and just fills in blanks.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I always kind of see it as, so my nan, when she first developed cataracts, has a syndrome called, I think, Charles Bonnet syndrome. And it's where she can't see much, she hallucinates, and it'll be people because her brain is filling in the blanks.
Right.
And for me, that's how my dyslexic brain works. My brain just fills in the blanks with things that may not even be there. So
that's fascinating. I wonder whether it's related to how you can read a sentence and because of the expectations of what that sentence will say, we put a missing word in there when it's not actually physically written down.
Isn't it pareidolia? seeing patterns in things that aren't.
Yeah, that's like recognizing faces and things in objects when it's not actually there. But then, there's that reading thing of.
That's really
reading it
cool.
in. That
You
is
should
fascinating.
you should do a PhD, right?
Oh, just casually.
Like casually do a
Casually
PhD and write a book where the first part of the sentence is from another book and you complete the sentence.
I complete it.
Yeah. And then
I
you can do
always
research
say
into
that
it.
should be an autism diagnosis in itself, just someone getting a PhD. Like you should just
being
also
able
get an
to-
autism diagnosis with that.
Jamie's
focus
currently
that much.
working on a proposal for a PhD.
I feel like anyone going for their PhD, it's just here's the autism.
Like in terms of that being able to focus so much into it and having such an
They
interest
just
and
must
drive.
love that one thing.
Yeah, because
so
it's
much.
a real like
Yeah.
it's you have to be super specific for a
Yeah.
PhD.
Yeah.
You can't be vague, and we hate vague. We just hate vague.
Yeah.
Not that I speak for all autistic people, because if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. But everyone that I've met hates vague.
But no, I was listening to a podcast last year now, and it had someone on it who got a PhD in how crows grieve, bereavement of crows.
Wow.
And I remember just thinking,
I've heard about that.
autistic. Like, who sits there and is so obsessed with crows that you think, crow bereavement, I'm going to dedicate my life to learning about this.
And now I want to read that. I need to
really
read that
interesting.
dissertation.
Really interesting
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So did you for want of a better word, sort of come out to people as neurodivergent, or did you just sort of let it flow?
Kind of yes and no. So it was quite. So trying to think what to say here. So with my family, I don't live very close to them, and there wasn't really a point because I was diagnosed when I moved away, and it was like there's not really much of a point to kind of say that. But I remember when I got referred for the diagnosis, even just being referred for it was such like a, oh my gosh, someone else believes me kind of thing. So I remember really excitedly telling my sister, like, even if nothing comes of it, it just feels really nice that a professional has listened to me and has thought, no, yeah, that sounds right, we'll refer you. And then one of my other cousins was diagnosed autistic. And that kind of was like a pathway to me to be like, oh, me too, kind of thing. But otherwise, I don't think I would have really come out in a way just because there wasn't point. And I'm the kind of person, if there's not a point to me doing something, I'm not going to do it. It's just a waste of energy. I have very limited energy reserves. But over the years, I think especially as I've my life is very much neurodivergent people, be it at work or in my personal life with friends, it's very rare that I am going to have a conversation outside of being paid with someone who isn't neurodivergent, just because that's how life works.
You're paid to talk to neurotypicals. I love that image of just like,
just being paid.
you're going to pay you to go and talk to the neurotypicals now.
Yeah.
Just
like,
just give them a bit of attention.
Yeah,
you
give them
know?
it's like, oh, I need a bonus for that. So it's kind of not, it's a bit like, again, like I'm a lesbian, and in the queer community, I don't really come out to people because everyone I know is queer. And so I just kind of assume, oh, well, you're probably queer too, so we don't need to come out to each other. We just know we're in like a queer environment. I guess it's the same thing. I'm in a very autistic space. So
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like that safe space, the environment that you're in means that you don't necessarily need to feel the need to.
I wish I could do that, because like I pretty much every conversation I have with somebody, I mention being autistic.
Yeah.
And I wish, and every time I do it, I'm like, I don't want to do that. It's almost become like a tick.
yeah.
Like I have to mention it, and I hate that I keep mentioning it. But also, I think I sort of subconsciously do it in the hope that someone will go, oh, me too.
Yeah.
Or for somebody else to feel more comfortable because I've mentioned it.
Yeah.
Whereas like I feel like people might see it as me using it as an excuse for like my behavior or something, which I would never do.
No, but I was going to say, sometimes I think it feels like you want to almost come out early on to people, because I hate, I've had times in my life where I felt very bad about being autistic, and I've really felt like it's a deficit and felt really ashamed. And I was literally Googling how to make it go away kind of thing, because that was the environment I was in. Was the only time me being autistic was brought up was when I had done something quote unquote wrong.
When there's a problem for someone else.
Yeah. So it's almost like I sometimes feel like I want to come out to people. So then it's not just brought up when something's gone wrong. I don't want them to have that kind of confirmation bias that like, oh, well, you know, they're autistic, so they didn't know this. When instead of being, oh, they're autistic, so they knew this, this, and this, and it was great. Like, you want to make that positive connotation early on, so it's not just negative.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I completely relate to that in terms of, I think because I'm very conscious when I say it to people, like I do end up saying it almost all the time, that the autism and the ADHD. And I get very conscious about, am I using it? How are people reading this? But then at the same time, I'm going, actually, I think I'm saying it to both set up that positive confirmation and try and challenge some misconceptions and stuff that people have out about things. It's like, okay, so just before we have a great interaction, I want you to know that I'm autistic and I have ADHD and stuff. I won't go too much into this because this is like a digression hole to go down.
We love a digression.
But I find it fascinating how it changes people's reactions to me and the interaction themselves. If I don't say at all that I'm either of those things, or if I say ADHD first, or if I say autism first, and then if I just say one and give it a bit of space before I say the other, how that changes the social interaction, because that's how I do social interactions. Yes.
Well, overthinking.
It's fascinating. Let's use this as an experiment.
I think as well, I'm always worried. So I make a lot of jokes about, you know, like I said, when I fell over, I had a really dyspraxic moment, or like, autism brain. And I don't want people to think I'm not autistic and I'm making horrible jokes about people. You know, it's like, I don't want people to think I'm using this as a horrible thing. It's like, no, I can make this about me. Like, I can make these jokes. Like,
oh my gosh, we, my husband and I met my eldest stepdaughter's boyfriend last week. Really lovely guy, super lovely. And my eldest stepdaughter is autistic.
Yeah.
And the first time we met this poor boy, I say poor boy because we are a lot. Me and my husband are a lot. Meeting is for the first time. And my husband mentioned that he made me cry this morning. He was like, I made her cry this morning. And then I felt the need to sort of, and then he started to explain it was like because she was having a meltdown and I was being funny. And then I felt the need to like over explain it so that you know it's okay. Look, my husband has ADHD and I'm autistic. So sometimes I'm overwhelmed and he's making jokes, which are hilarious. And at any other time I would have laughed and laughed. But because I was in the wrong moment, I cried. And I feel like I have to over-explain that so that you know that we're not being mean about neurodivergent people. This is just our lives.
The correcting it back.
Just
to reassure you.
Don't think badly of my husband. He wasn't making me cry because he was being mean. He was making me cry because he was being hilarious.
I think that's such a neurodivergent thing as well that, I mean, I don't know about you, but I have such a terrible fear of being misunderstood. Because of my whole life, I've been so misunderstood. Yeah. And sometimes you don't realize you've been misunderstood until so much later down the line. And then you're like, oh my gosh, like 5 years ago, you misunderstood something I said. And now
it's still here. Yeah, it's still in your brain.
Those are the things that keep you up at night.
Yeah, it's just the over-explaining just to desperately be understood. And sometimes it makes it worse somehow. And again, it's that misunderstanding of, well, how am I making this worse? I don't know what to do.
How am I making this worse by explaining it further? How is this making it worse?
Yeah, I used to write like essay-long messages sometimes when I was I now know that like if I'm got the impulse to do that, I probably just shouldn't write the message at all because my brain is not in the right space to do it, because it was an anxiety thing of that fear of being misunderstood coming in and taking over my entire brain. But like literally ridiculously long messages. So it's just like, and just constant caveats and just, actually just to explain this thing. My use of the word blah, 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 here. And it's like, that would overload me. So don't write someone else.
Well, it's a thing I've had my whole life of people saying, you always have to be right. And I saw someone say it really well the other day though, and it was, I don't always have to be right, but the conversation needs to be correct.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, I'll say, well, actually, when I said this, I meent this. Oh, well, you're right. Like, you won the argument. It's like, no, I'm trying to make the facts that we have correct. Yes. I'm not trying to be right. If I'm, you
don't see it as a competition.
Yeah, it's not a competition. I'm not, and and this is the thing. I'm really aware that's how it comes across, but I can't do it any other way. It's like I can't change the way I communicate. I have tried very hard and it does not happen.
Well, it's looking for clarity of communication.
Yeah.
Isn't it? You're actually trying to find the space to that.
Sorry, I just need a slight moment because that's it just hit a nerve because that's exactly how I feel about when I get into arguments with people, which happens quite a lot.
Oh yes, my whole life is arguments with people.
I'm cool. That actually, it makes me feel a little bit emotional because that's exactly how I feel when I'm getting into arguments and stuff. And I've not really heard somebody express it. I've never been able to express why.
Yeah.
It's been a problem, and that sort of I might just clip that and play it to people.
Honestly, it changed my life when I saw it just written down because I was like, that's it. I was like, I don't have to be right, but the facts need to be correct.
Oh, lovely. Okay, so we're going to have to wrap up, unfortunately. I'm really enjoying myself.
Keep talking forever.
But if you've got anything you'd like to comment on or tell us about your experiences, like we always say, comment or drop us a line and talk to us because we always like to hear your opinions. Thank you for coming in, Bea.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, that's it for this episode. You can follow us on Instagram at life.inthemind. Our other socials are linked in our bio. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. See you next time.